That's right.
Okay.
I do not see on
She texted that something is different about the Zoom.
There's nobody in the room. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Friday night. Can we have a roll call for Paul's
Sure. Supervisor Hewitt,
here?
trustee Robinson,
Here.
trustee Page,
Here,
assessor Trowbridge, and then online, Commissioner Young,
Here.
trustee McGovern.
Here,
Okay, and then we'll do a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with in-person public comment. Anybody have an in-person public comment?
I would like to mention in regards to the agreement for the accounting service. There are a couple things that we wanted to make sure that it was gonna be okay. Nowhere on the agreement does it mention the Lisle Township Road District. So we're hoping that the agreement includes the Lisle Township Road District and their requirements and services.
Of course.
And it looks like there's no confidentiality statement. And that may need to be included. And last but not least, the Township Road, Lisle Township Road District has various checks that come in throughout the year, every week, every month, that need to be deposited, and those would have to be part of the services that this company would do for our department. Like checks for sidewalk deposits and things like that. So we want to make sure that that's included in your services.
Of course. Any other public comments? In person? And then online, any public comments? If you have one, you can raise your hand, you can raise your Zoom hand. Okay, and then I'm going to the public comments from submission. And we have, I'm just gonna refresh that, 0 online public comments. And then discussion and possible action on approving the engagement letter from Lauterbach and I'm an accounting firm. And just as an introduction, Wes Levy is a partner from Lauterbach and Amen. He is online here if anybody has any questions. And Sharon she's the administrator in the highway department. Wes, did you hear those comments?
I did, and yes, the road district is certainly included in the services. We work with a lot of townships. It's some work with, some kind of separate, but we generally are involved in both. So deposits and road district work are certainly included in the scope. And I apologize, I'm a little getting over a cold, so my voice is a little in and out.
Can I ask a question of Wes?
Sure, Highway Commissioner Young.
Thank you for coming, Wes. And I two things. One, the miscellaneous thing that Sharon discussed too, but also you said you work for many other townships. And I'm curious about the rate you charge the other townships. Are they similar in rate what you charge us?
Yes and no. The big driver there is the scope of services that we provide. Not all of them are as in depth as this larger version that we're looking at today. hourly rates are consistent across all townships, so it's really just the depth of service that drives the total that we're looking at today.
Do you provide any other townships with the same depth of service that you're going to provide Lisle Township?
Not as of today, no.
Okay. I guess my concern is that I think that we deserve some assurance that the rate you're going to charge us for the services that you're going to render is equal to any other township that you would provide similar services. The other townships, I want to say, who get similar services aren't going to get it for a lesser rate.
I can't provide any assurances on that regard, other than our hourly rates are pretty well fixed across the government sector. But since we're doing a fixed fee, it's based on an estimate of how long we think this work is going to take on a monthly basis. Obviously, our goal then is to be as efficient as we can be, and not sit there but in the chair, 100 hours a month just to additional bill at an hourly rate. But there's nothing I have or can provide that I think would satisfy your request.
Is it possible that after you've been doing this for a few months that you decide that or learn that the amount of hours that are required to maintain this account appropriately aren't as large as you thought when you put your budget together, and therefore reduce the rate?
Absolutely. After 2 months, no. After 12 months, yes. Historically, we're going to put in 1.5 to 2 times what our budget is on a monthly basis for the first 6 months to get up to speed, to ramp up, so to speak. We do accounting in the government space across most of the state of Illinois. So we're familiar and comfortable with all of the facets and the statutes and what needs to be done. Obviously, the timing specific to you guys is a little bit different, which we'll learn as we get in. So we're fairly confident with our estimates, but it still takes time to get used to your systems, your processes, softwares. Getting access to things can be a challenge. So there's just more time and energy that goes into it up front, which is why we like to do these new engagements as a 1-year commitment, because we put ourselves on the short end of the stick, so to speak, for that first 6 months or so, because it does take more time and energy to document the process and get things to where they need to be.
But you and your staff are very familiar with QuickBooks, are you not?
We are familiar. I wouldn't say very. It's not a fan favorite of ours for the government space with multiple funds, but we are familiar.
Okay.
And
That's go ahead.
I just want to mention that our team in the financial services space is about 50 or so individuals, and all 50 of us are dedicated to the government space, and we don't do small business accounting, which is why I say we're familiar with QuickBooks, but we're not the experts, because we don't generally try to get governments to utilize QuickBooks, because it's not the best application out there for multi-fund accounting.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question.
Trustee Page?
Do you intend for this to be 100% remote? Or will there be somebody in the office?
Yeah, there will be on-site time. Once we get in and start getting through things and learn the timing of your meetings and bill dates and frequency or needs for physical bank deposits, things of that nature, we'll kind of set the stage for how frequently and how long we're in the office. You guys aren't too far down the road, so it's pretty convenient for us to pop in for an hour or two here and there as needed, if they're not full days. But we'll kind of generate that plan over the first couple of weeks of working with you guys as far as how much is on site and remote.
Thank you.
Clerk Paulowitz.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you, you're speaking to the hourly rate, although we have, a monthly rate. How many hours are you projecting to work every month?
Yeah, in the beginning, I anticipate it'll be 80 to 100 hours per month. Ongoing, I'm hoping that settles into 50 to 70.
So this quote that you're giving us is for 80 to 100 hours?
Well, it's kind of a blend because that's going to be the first 6 months, right? And then hopefully, as we get things set up and documentation in place, that those hours start to come down. On an annualized basis, I think it's in the 700 to 800 range, but I don't have those figures in front of me at the moment.
I have another question.
Trustee Page.
Do you require QuickBook passwords? I guess, will they have to be shared? Do they have to be reset? How do we handle that?
So I did hear that there may be some challenges with usernames, passwords for all of the existing accounts and applications that you guys currently utilize. If those are available, if we can get those, we can start to set up new accounts with you that are specific to us. But in the short term, especially for next week, with next week being payroll week, as much access that already exists that we can utilize would ensure a smoother first payroll run for sure.
Trustee Clerk Paulowitz.
I just forgot to ask, will you be available for our meetings? The board meetings in the evening?
Generally, we don't come to every meeting, but certainly in the beginning, if there's questions on reports or transitionary discussions, we can certainly attend. Our board meeting attendance is more driven around kind of high points or peaks throughout the year, audit time, tax levy time, budget time, because we're involved with those processes. But other times throughout the year, it's really on an as needed basis.
I have a couple more questions.
Highway Commissioner Young.
Wes, will you be looking at the prior history to see whether anything was misrecorded in the current fiscal year?
To a degree, I can't say we're going to go through every transaction, but part of what we're going to need to do come year end is close out the books. So there's a lot of accrual adjustments, a lot of activity that we'll need to review and report. Obviously, we're going to go through all the major revenue sources and tie those back to source documents or like county issue reports. Same thing on the expense side. All of the major significant expenses, payroll expenses, things of that nature. We won't necessarily go through every supplies account or more de minimis type accounts to do every invoice, but we'll certainly dig in and review a lot of it, yes.
I bring that up because at the first part of this year and the last part of last fiscal year, monies weren't transferred from the general assistance fund to the general fund because there wasn't enough cash to cover the checks written on the general assistance fund.
Sure.
I guess you can tell us to do it, or you can go back and look at the beginning of the year to make sure it gets recorded appropriately.
Yeah, we're certainly going to have to go back and throughout this fiscal year, but even the prior fiscal year, to make sure that fund balances and everything tie back to that last audit report.
Okay.
And some of those things will flush themselves out as we're trying to tick and tie and reconcile.
Okay.
And at this point, since we haven't really gotten to take a look at the books, so to speak, get into QuickBooks, poke around. Not really sure how you guys are set up or how you're currently utilizing QuickBooks. So there may be some opportunity for us to make some recommendations on do things with maybe a little bit more transparent. So you guys can see and understand those things in real time versus, kind of catching it after the fact.
Will you give us a listing, one, how many staffers will be involved in the account, and will you give us a listing of their names and contacts?
Yeah, so depending on the scope of the project, our minimum is always 2. There's a staff and a manager. We have some projects that have 10, 12 people involved. For you guys, we'll have a staff person, a manager, a principal, which is Kelly. Some of you may have met at a prior board meeting. She's out this week, so I'm filling in. And then partner level support as needed. So we will have 3 long-term. In the beginning, there may be a second staffer trying to help get things caught up if their books are behind in any fashion.
Okay. Thank you.
But Kelly will be involved. Have a staff person or a lead on our team, Jacob, that we're trying to coordinate schedules for next week to be involved. Another manager, Nicole. We'll probably see 3 or 4 people out on site, certainly over the first month.
Okay.
Trustee Geist?
Well, first and foremost, let me apologize that it took me over 15 minutes to get connected. So I was here. How familiar are you with our background and where we've come from up until this day in some of the challenges we've had? Like, how versed are you in everything? Like, how far back have you watched any of our previous meetings? Have you had a breakdown or a summarization of what has gone on up until this point? I'm asking this as an honest point because, this is not an easy situation to come into. So I just want to make sure you have a very clear picture of where we've been so that you can help us to where we're going. I don't think it's so simple as just to say we're going to start with a fresh, clean slate, because I think in order to move forward, we have to understand where we've been.
Sure. So to speak to, do I understand the past and how far back? Not to the same degree that my colleague Kelly does, because she's been more involved since you guys first reached out and has watched several meetings. She's kind of given me the Reader's Digest version, and I know there's been some challenges. And it is one of the topics that we discussed, in putting together the proposals. All of the work that needs to be done for the township in the accounting and finance space, we're comfortable with and we can do. I realize there's been questions and issues in the past, and we're going to try to help sort out and provide answers and get everybody comfortable so that we can start fresh and move forward in the right manner with everybody on the same page. But it's not going to happen next week. It's going to take some time to see where things are at and get it back on the rails, so to speak.
Trustee Robinson?
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate your time. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was muted. Can I just add to that? I appreciate that response. I think that that's very positive. What I would do is definitely encourage you not just to speak with one trustee, but to make sure you're connecting with all of the trustees so that we're all on the same page. One of the challenges that we've had previously is there's dialogue with one trustee or 2 trustees, or, just with the supervisor. And then we come into these meetings each month and we're blindsided sometimes, and then, this person was instructed to do that, or we were waiting for this person, or this person hasn't been responsive. I really want to make sure that we have really clean communications, because we're entering a partnership, right? that has
Yep.
a significant expense attached when we are watching our spend. And so I just want to make sure we don't find ourselves, and we've worked with very competent people in the past, right?
Yeah.
And uh, so this is not due to lack of competence. There's definitely some challenges that we have, and I just want to make sure that you're being very cognizant of it, because I don't think our attorney understood how some of the challenges we were having, and now they're learning, why we've had the challenges we've had. So just go in eyes wide open. I'm also concerned about the access to QuickBooks, just from a security perspective. I'm hoping that you're not going to have 10 people accessing our books. I don't see that there would be a need for that. But I just want to make sure that the communication flows, not just the supervisor. So if you're not going to come to every meeting, I would at least plan to come, have someone available who can answer a question that we can shoot a text to and say, hey, can you jump on and just answer a couple of questions for us, so we don't have to wait till the next meeting to have those answers, or wait for an email to have those answers, which may have additional questions based on the answer. And you're planning on 80 to 100 hours per month. We had a full-time person managing this role at 40 hours a week. So how do you expect to navigate that effectively while maintaining the budget, or the proposal, honoring the proposal that you have offered?
Yeah, so two things there that you touched on. The first one was kind of communications and the importance, and clarity, transparency, and I'll say speed or expediency. I'm not waiting for weeks on end for an answer. But then managing the workload being the second one. From a communication standpoint, we're gonna have to work together to determine what works best. And I hear your concern of, there's maybe requests or directives given from multiple different people, and not everybody's in the loop on what those requests or directives are. We're gonna have to work together to figure out what makes sense, and how communication flow should happen without jeopardizing or creating an Open Meetings Act violation situation. But there's some things that we have that we can discuss at one of our first meetings to keep that open flow of communication, and have information and answers available at meetings. Secondly, from how can we do a full-time person's job in part-time hours? That's really, I don't want to say Lauterbach and even in whole, but our financial services team, which has been in this space for about 12 years, has really grown out of the lack of full-time jobs within the space, within the government sector. And I say that not to say that your outgoing person was inefficient or didn't have 40 hours of work a week to do. But the name of our game is efficiency. And if you do one process one time a week, 52 weeks out of the year, you get pretty good after a year. If you do one process 15 times a day, 365 days out of the year, you get to be pretty good, pretty efficient, and identify pitfalls and roadblocks and hurdles to efficiency really quickly. So if we're doing a process with 140 clients, we've got that process, worked out, all the kinks, so to speak. So we're able to do it more efficiently.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that you've had access to quite a bit of information. I'm not feeling a super strong confidence with the use of QuickBooks. I'm a little nervous about that and the time it's going to take to amp up. I think that we've given you access to a secure portal, but we've given you a lot of information without access to a secure portal. So there's just I come from a background of IT security, so that is always going to be a concern for me. So I'd like you to speak to that. And all of the problems that you still are not aware of are going to take a lot of time and resources before you can even actually get to the day-to-day, month-to-month effort. So I'm concerned about the
Yeah.
expectation of that because you've had a Reader's Digest version.
Yeah, so two things I want to share. There's a township that we worked with for 10 or 12 years, one of the early clients when we kind of branched out into this accounting services space. They had 2 full-time people doing the account for the township because running 15 instances of QuickBooks, essentially 15 different QuickBook companies, one for each fund and each function. And we took that, albeit over the course of a year, from 2 full-time people to 1 person, 8 hours a week. A lot of the reason that we're not huge fans of QuickBooks is because of the inefficiencies and how systems have been designed and set up based on the understanding, the skill set, or the knowledge of whoever created it in the past. I don't want to say we're huge fans of, if it's not broke, break it and do it again, but we're very much not same as last year type individuals. We're constantly looking to make things better. And it's not just from an efficiency standpoint, it's reporting and understanding the information. From a security standpoint, again, I haven't been out to go through things yet. I don't know if payroll is all wrapped up in QuickBooks within the same company file, but obviously security is important. We don't give everyone access to every client. It's those that need access to the information to do the work that will have access. But outside of payroll information, specifically personal information, names, addresses, social security numbers, things of that nature, bank account information. The rest of it is GL accounts and vendor names and dollar amounts of deposits and payments. So there's not a whole lot of information within the system that's not foilable, I guess we could say. Outside of that personnel bucket, there's some donation information. But we take security seriously. As I mentioned, I don't know if you were on the call yet. In the beginning, we're going to need to utilize the usernames and passwords that are there because without access, we can't start doing the work, especially in the short term payroll needs. But we are going to create and utilize usernames and passwords for each individual that needs access to different functions, so we can track and see who's in and out and who's doing what. As far as remote work, again, kind of need to see the setup. I think we're utilizing QuickBooks Desktop. A lot of the work that we're going to be doing that's not deposits can be done remotely, and it doesn't need to be direct access to the system. We do utilize Excel quite a bit for various worksheets and parts and pieces of the process.
Yeah, that's a problem with QuickBooks Desktop is you can't access it remotely. And it doesn't look like.
Trustee guys, can you let Wes finish? Thank you.
Yeah, so we're familiar with the inability to access that remotely without some sort of VPN, remote desktop, screen connect, file screen share type utility. The software we do use allows us to take a data export essentially and drop it in, and we can do a bunch of work within that software and then take the data back over to QuickBooks. We're probably going to have to utilize some of that just because we need to have 2 or 3 people in the software doing things at the same time. And unless you guys have that on 3 machines out there that can be accessed concurrently, that might be a little bit of a challenge with your current setup. But those are all the things that we're going to analyze, pretty quick off the bat.
Okay.
And Trustee Robinson had raised his hand
Yeah.
Trustee Robinson?
Yeah, Wes, thanks for all your answers. One of the things I want to make sure is that we have a standard and a consistent reporting to the board from a board package point of view. And to trustee Geist's comment, make sure that all the trustees can say, these are the things that are important to me, so that there'll be a process where you help us define, set up what those reports look like on a monthly basis. Can you talk about how you
Yes.
do that with other customers, other clients?
Yeah, first of all, this is your data, your information, and we all interpret and process information differently. So if you guys want to see things differently or sit down on the side and say, this is kind of what I need to see to understand what's going on, we're certainly going to work with you to help develop what that needs to be. One of the downfalls of QuickBooks is a little bit of restriction or lack of customized reports. They have a very large stock canned reporting platform, but we can't really deviate from what those reports look like without taking it to Excel, manually manipulating, then providing the data. Our goal would be to get to a point where we can hit print every day of the week if we need to, so you can get a report in the same format, same style, without 30 minutes of data manipulation. So it's also one of the benefits of us being able to pull data out of QuickBooks into Thompson's product ACS, because we have the ability to create more custom reports to fit your needs. Because, like I said, I'd be surprised if everybody on the board wanted to see the same thing or interpreted or read information from the page in the same way. So we'll work with you to provide the information in the way that you want to see.
Thank you.
Any other questions from trustees or anyone online? Okay.
I have a question. You asked for our data to be sent over. I do not have a secure portal with which to send you the copy of the QuickBooks updated or anything else. So once you get that provided, I can go ahead and send some of that over.
Yeah, I have a secure link in my email signature that has a file exchange where things can be dropped off. I can send you an email with that link if that works for you.
That would be fine.
Thank you, Wes. Okay, does the trustee want to make a motion to approve the engagement?
Yeah, it's trustee Robinson. I'll make a motion to approve the engagement as scoped in the engagement letter with the provisos that have been raised earlier relative to township or the highway commissioner, highway commission, highway department being included in the engagement, and that they will in fact manage the check deposits were the two big things you asked for, correct?
Yeah.
And the confidentiality as well.
Yes.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, trustee Robinson and trustee Page. And then any other discussion? And a roll call vote, clerk Politz?
Sure. Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee Geist?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes. Thank you, Wes, and we'll look forward to hearing from you and your firm and working with you all in the future.
Yes, absolutely. We will reach out Tuesday morning. We'll be back full staffed at that point, and kind of a skeleton crew here today. But we'll be in touch on Tuesday and get the ball rolling.
Thank you, sir.
Ready. Take care. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year.
And
Okay.
I apologize, but are you going to change the contract then to add those before you sign it?
Wes, would you mind adding those caveats that had just been mentioned and send that over to me?
Will
For
do.
this?
I'll do that this afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, then next is discussion and possible action on paying the IDES bill. and that's related to the IMRF payments that have been made in prior years, 2 prior years that was approved prior. So we're just.
The resolution, the resolution to authorize Janice Baptist to do her work, I thought included authorizations to make the appropriate payments to the taxing bodies, including IDES.
Okay, I was asked to get this approved, and then.
No, if you want to approve it again, that's fine. I don't really care.
Okay, trustee Robinson.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comment, Highway Commissioner. I believe what this is just saying that authorize the payment of the interest and the late penalty, because I think
Oh,
IDS payments were made, to your
Yes.
point, part of that, as part of that discussion. So I think this is just the board approving the interest and the late payment penalties as part of the resolution of the IMRF issues, the IDS. So, yeah, that's my understanding of what this was. Thank you.
then you'll have the same issues for penalties on the state and federal side as well that will have to go the same fashion.
Yes,
Okay.
so anytime these are coming up, or at the next meeting, we'll just put these on just to make sure that they're being approved. So would anybody like to make a motion to approve this?
How much was it?
Well, it's here, so that, the late, November 30th dated, document from IDES is late penalty payment of $176.56 and an interest of $179.37. That was for, I think, the 2021 pay period. Is that my understanding?
With the additional taxes of $1,765.57 to total $2,121.50.
Right, that was for 2021, right?
Yes, So
Is it just 21? Is 22 included?
it is not. So they're doing 1 year at a time.
I thought we had,
Sorry, 22 is,
22 and 23.
sorry, yes, on the last page, but they were previously paid. So this is concluding that because they were paid in another. No, sorry, this is 21, 22 and 23 added together.
right,
So 240 is from 22, 160, 23 to total 2,521.65.
That's for all years.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize payment of the penalty, late interest, late payment penalty and interest on the IDS for pay tax years 2021, 22 and 23. As outlined in this document.
Thank you, trustee Robinson.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, trustee Page. And then any other discussion? And a roll call vote.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee Geist?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Okay, it will be paid. And then, is there a need for an executive session? Or a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Page,
Second,
thank you, trustee Robinson. Any other discussion? And then and then clerk follow it's a roll call vote.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
yes.
Trustee Geist?
Yes.
McGovern?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes, have a happy new year.
Happy New Year all. Thank you all.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Year.
Bye.